Hey everybody, this is Dominick, Cicale, Mafia Roundtable. You asked for it, you got it. We have footage from New York City, the Bronx, my area, my growing up in the neighborhood, and we are integrating the story that I tell my son. Now you could feel from the reality, the footage, how everything comes together. If you want more, just let us know. We will be putting out more content. We hope you enjoy the show. We're here in the Pelham Bay section of the Bronx. This is where I first lived. I was about 2-3 years old, Roberts Avenue. This used to be my great-grandmother's house. And to show you how Italians are, my grandparents and great-grandmother lived on the first floor. Downstairs was the basement. Upstairs, my mother and I lived up there. And you know what? I remember one of my memories in this house was my father, when he had a furlough, he came home from jail, and I came running down the stairs, and he was on a motorcycle. He had his Triumph, and I just went running as a kid, and I touched the pipes, and I burnt my hands, and I remember screaming in a lot of pain. But there was a lot of fond memories of this house with my grandfather. Every time I would go downstairs, we'd watch The Rifleman and then Lost in Space. My great-grandmother was living in Florida, so she would come back up. Summertime, she would stay here and then go back down. But then when she sold the house, she was spiteful. She was one of those, like, evil people, and she wouldn't sell it to my grandfather and grandmother, which was her daughter. We wound up moving over there, Hazel Towers, that building. So if you want to walk up, we could come right here to the corner, take a shot, look, and then we could walk around the block. Over here, this is the back of the building. We used to call this the Powerhouse. This fence wasn't here. There was no fence. There was actually, this is the original fence that used to be back here. None of these cars were here. There used to be a basketball court here. We used to play ball all the time. And as I got older, I would be able to dunk. So everybody would get mad because I would bend the rim, so I would hang on it. But over here in this back, we would play stickball up against the wall, pitching. And that whole wall, for the bicentennial year, 1976, it was all painted with flag, with the big eagle, all red, white, and blue. That was bicentennial for the 4th of July. Great time. There would be burnt out cars they would put here. And we would play on them. We'd play baseball in this parking lot. There was all broken glass back in the day. It was just the neighborhood. We loved it. We'd play stickball in the summertime. The Johnny Pump would be running all summer. We'd go there, drink from the Johnny Pump. And this was it. This was the neighborhood. And then once a year, we would have the feast. And over here by the basketball court, they would actually cut down the pole and put the gambling tent here. And that's where I was with Big Mongo, in the gambling tent. I was basically like his errand boy. So we'll go walk around the building. We could go over everything we used to do. But this used to be, we used to call this the Powerhouse. So when we say we're playing stickball or we're going to play hardball, basketball, hey, where you guys going? We're going to the Powerhouse. So everybody would come here. And you would have anywhere from 15 to 25 kids, ranging anywhere from 7 years old to 15-year-old. This is Hazel Towers. None of these fences were here. But in this park, in the wintertime, if you look over here, what we used to do is come down with buckets of water from the building and throw it. And you see they had a little concrete all around the park, so the water would freeze over and we would play ice hockey with our sneakers though, not with skates, but we play ice hockey and use those park benches. There was never seats over there. They were always broken, and use that as the goal post from one side to the other. This was called the Little Park. And then over here, none of these trees were here. So this was all open, none of the greenery was here, just the grass. And we would play football from one side to the next. We're a little pixie. And then even over here in the streets, if you come over here, from one manhole cover to the next, we would play football. Sometimes tag football. If there was snow on the ground, we would play tackle football right here. And every time a car would pass, it'd be a timeout. We would all move to the side. So if a play was in progress, we're all moving to the side. And then there was times the cars would have to wait for us if there was a play in progress. But there would be about 15, 20 of us in the street playing football. That, again, was the neighborhood. And over here, if you look up on all the way up through the trees on the 18th floor, my friend's mother had a terrible accident, whether it was suicide or she fell. Supposedly she was cleaning the window, but I saw it. I was on the top of this hill, looking down, talking to my friend Greg, yelling. He was on that side, and when she hit over here, she hit the concrete head first. I saw it. The body went up in the air. You heard a boom, and I thought somebody threw a dummy off the roof. Her leg split open, and that burned in my mind forever. That was definitely traumatizing. I was about 10 years old when that happened. And if you look across the street, we had a bodega, and then we had, that was the game room. The second store was the game room. And over there, we would all gather around, play video games. At the time, all the young kids would be smoking. I never smoked. I didn't like it, cigarette smoke. But that would be the game room. Everybody would meet up there, hang out there. And the other store was the bodega. This used to be called the Big Rock. Doesn't look big to me anymore, but as a kid, this was a big rock. And there was a woman here who lived on the 7th floor. Her name was Maria Pryor. She has a sister, Diane Pryor, who's actually a radio host, did some TV work. I don't know if she's still doing TV work, but her sister jumped and her head hit here on the big rock, and she wound up dying. We walk further. Here's the front of, we'll show you the front of the building where everybody used to hang out on the steps. We used to play cards. That's what it was about. All the kids would be hanging out. Older people would be walking in, and it was safe. It was a community. Even at nighttime, we would play manhunt, where everybody goes hiding around the building. You have to find each other. And then by about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, Uncle Vinny would come around, the ice cream truck, and he would be right over here, Uncle Vinny. He would come, everybody go there, and then right behind him was the Carvel truck. Everybody would go get ice cream, hang out, and then you'd hear, Dominick! My mother from the 17th floor would be calling me. I'll be right up, get up here now. And there was a time she would come down. All of a sudden, I had my wiffle ball bat. My friends would be laughing, joking. She'd take the wiffle ball bat, start hitting me. And then I'd hear all the heckling. Ah, ha, ha, he's getting his ass whooped. But, you know, that's, I took my lumps like a kid, like a man. What could you do? But that was growing up here in the Pelham Bay section of the Bronx, Hazel Towers. These are memories you live for, they're embedded in you forever. Now here we are in the front of Hazel Towers. Now if you look, these terraces over here is the N. 4N was Anthony Spina. Then you had 6N, the Fioris. 17N was Cicale. And then above that, 19N was Manzo. So we all lived here on this line right here, all the way up there, lived on the 17th floor. We had so many people in this building, just young kids all having a good time. My camera guy just asked me, he's like, how would you say this is? Nicer? To me, this look that they created, it's a prison. It's a jail. This is a jail to me. This neighborhood, just speaking to one of the guys walking in the building, recognized me from the YouTube channel. He said this used to be the Beverly Hills of the Bronx. We didn't have all these fences here, all this greenery. This was a neighborhood. Kids would be here playing in the streets. At this hour, summertime, everybody's out. Look at it, it's a ghost town. This is disgusting, folks. This is where he said, guys telling me the neighborhood's changed, people are stealing, they're doing things, people are afraid to walk around. When you had the kids hanging out, there was no crime here, so everybody's hanging out. They would even come and give out lunches for us, summer programs. I mean, this was nice. All this This is prison. To me, this is like a prison field. Even though the greenery looks nice, this is a prison. This was the motel where we used to come to bring girls. This was like an owl motel. We go in here, have fun. Around the back of this motel, we would open up the windows as kids. And if somebody was in there, we would hear noises, we'd see sex, and then we would yell, "Hey!" And the guys would come out yelling, screaming, but we would have a blast here at this motel. I can't believe this motel is still here. We used to call this the Roach Motel. This is Wilkerson Park. We used to play baseball here back in the day. I remember I was on the Indians. We had Mark Gloria, Dom Scatino, Anthony Spina, everybody from Hazel Towers, Joey Taramina, even though he didn't live in Hazel Towers, he was on the team. And we had Carvel that would sponsor us. So every time somebody would hit a home run, everybody would go to Carvel, get free ice cream. But this was the field we used to play. Later on, I used to bring my mini bike here. I had a dirt bike, XR75, a Honda. And I would tear up the field when nobody was playing. It's sad. This day and age, summertime, nobody's at the park. It used to be loaded with kids. That's why losing communities, you lose value. Everybody's inside playing video games instead of being outside interacting with one another. Look at this. This park used to be banging. Everybody was out all the time. In a good way, banging, not bad. And now it's a ghost town. Pilgrim Avenue, Pure Avenue as well. Remember I told you back at Hazel Towers, the Powerhouse, 1976 bicentennial year, they did the big flag, red, white, and blue with the eagle. Well, if you look over here, still here till this day. Here was another one that they put up. This was another thing. So this is here all these years, still up after all these years. Now that's what the neighborhood was about. Across the street was our candy store. We used to go there, get candy after school. Now we're here. This is St. Teresa's. This was my grammar school. This playground yard used to be our rec area in the morning and the afternoon. It was from like second graders to fifth graders would be in here. And I remember we would play football over here. It would be packed. You couldn't move. And there was a kid, Valley Pooch, they used to call him. Big kid. Heavy. He had to weigh about 350 pounds, but he could move. And I remember one day I'm leaning up against that little wall over there, and he's running past, and I put my foot out, and he fell. He fell so hard, he really hurt himself bad, and I felt, nobody seen me stick my foot out and trip him. I felt so bad because I didn't expect him to fall that hard and get hurt, but that's how heavy he was. I wanted to trip him, but I didn't want to hurt him that bad, and he got hurt. But that was part of growing up, and this was grammar school years. Now we'll go down, we'll take a walk, and I'll show you the main playground for the 6th to 8th graders. Over here you have the auditorium, and in the street over here at lunchtime, they would close the street off, and you had the 6th to 8th graders over here, all the boys on this side. And then over there, you had all the girls. They would play over there. But also, recently, they have the St. Teresa Feast over here. They shut everything down. They have the feast coming in over here now. It's no longer in the back of Hazel Towers. But this school, we went through, in the 6th grade, I went through 7 homeroom teachers. We were derelicts. I was the ringleader, of course. I got punished. I couldn't go to field day. I couldn't go to class trips that year. And there was about 4 or 5 of us that got left back that year. We all went to summer school, we all passed. Everybody went up to 7th grade. The principal at that time was Sister Teresa Francis. She would not allow me to go to the 7th grade. She was making an example out of me because I was the ringleader. She would not promote me up to 6th grade, and that's when we transferred to St. Benedict's, and that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. We're up here in Greenwood Lake, Waterwa Park, this home behind me. This is my grandparents' home. That was their retirement back in the 50s. This brings back so many memories for me because, as you well know, I grew up with my grandparents. They raised me. So every weekend we would come up here, be at the house. I mean, back then it was different. There was a big Christmas tree over here. The stone was a solid wall across, and my grandfather would have the house pristine, that people would stop and ask about it, and like it was really, really nice. I just spoke to the owner of the house, and she was telling me they still have all the nutty pine in the house, that she was cordial enough to ask to invite me inside if I want to walk around, go out back, but I didn't want to be intrusive with her. Really nice woman. This is my history. This is where I grew up as a kid. I remember even the 4th of July, I'd bring fireworks, and my grandfather, sometimes the Roman candles, they'd go into the trees in the big Christmas tree, and he'd be like, Joe, Joe. My grandmother's name is Josephine. He would say, he's going to burn down the tree. And she'd say, Sal, stop it, leave him alone. But I had so much fun up here as a kid, going down this mountain to the lake, coming back up. And there would be a whole bunch of kids. And every night, I remember about 5:30, 6 o'clock, the ice cream man would come. And we would hear the jingles of, because he would have bells. You hear the bells ring, and he'd come, we'd come running out and have ice cream. This home brings back a lot of good memories. And hopefully one day I could purchase this home and restore it to its original luster. And I know my grandparents would be proud of me, because no matter how much wrong I did in my life, they always loved me unconditionally. They accepted everything, and I could do no wrong. And that's a type of love I only felt from my grandparents, where they cared for me. No matter what I did wrong, I was their boy, I was their favorite, and I could do no wrong. So I know they're looking down upon me, proud of who I've become, what I've become. And if I could eventually obtain this house and restore it to its original luster, I know they'll be proud of it. And I would do that just because it's part of my blood, it's part of my history. So up here means a lot to me, and I get emotional as I start talking about it. To my grandparents, I know you're looking down upon me. I love you both. I miss you. We're back on Mulford Avenue. This was my grandmother's house, Madeline Cicale. I have a lot of memories here on this step as kids. We used to hang out. There used to be a big branch that came out. I used to climb it as a kid on this tree. It's sad. Look at the condition of the house after she passed. But we'll go up in the back, we'll talk. And also in this house, that's where I stashed all the guns. I had 4 MAC-10s with silencers that we were going to use to go kill the Albanians and Patty DiFilippo. We had an arsenal, and I kept it in the basement of the house. My grandmother had a storage bin, a big bin, and I buried it on the bottom. Put her materials, she was a seamstress, put that on top. And then one day she calls me up, could you come to the house? I come over, she's like, what are all those things downstairs in the basement? So she busted me. I said, Graham, don't worry, I just need them for protection. Okay, okay. Next time tell Grandma, she says. But come on, let's walk and I'll show you some more of the house. Over here, this was the downstairs. This was the entrance where we used to come into the basement. And that was like the main part of the house. Upstairs was just the living quarters. And then eventually, when my grandmother lived upstairs, she moved back upstairs, that's where they were staying. This was my apartment down here as a kid. So at 13, 14, 15, 16, I used to go down there with my friends, hang out. We used to cook, there was a full kitchen, bring girls there, hang out, have a good time. And then here, look, this is sad. This is sad. Backyard. Everything's overgrown. Over here, I used to put my basketball court up over here, and we used to come play basketball. It was amazing. This tree, I don't know where this came from, but the tree was not even here. It's a sad day. My grandmother used to put clothes on the clothesline. So I have a lot of fond memories of this house, without a doubt. Son, let me tell you something. You think the streets are your friends? Streets aren't your friends. It's treacherous. Trust me, I know. So you're gonna sit here and you're gonna listen to me. Before I left the life, You know I was a captain in the Bonanno crime family. Second in command. What happened? What happened that I left the life? My boss, Joe Messina, wore a wire on the acting boss, Vinnie Gorgeous, in a prison. In a prison. And from there, they read in the newspaper. They saw Randy Pizzola was killed. Joe asked Vinny, what happened? Vinny turned around, Dominick did it. Me, your father. What happened? I went to jail. These are things you're not supposed to talk about. What happened when I went to jail? They took everything from me, my so-called brothers, my friends, my crew. And then to make matters worse, Vinny wanted me to do something for him that's a no-no in organized crime. I won't go into that now. Let me tell you something, and I'm telling you this because I love you. You're my son. Growing up, one of the first times in Hazel Towers, we lived on the 17th floor. Went downstairs, first day I'm down there. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but I grew up with your great-grandparents and your grandmother. That was it. That was my household. My mother and my grandparents. They sent me downstairs. There's about 30, 40 kids playing. And later on, I learned I was one of the youngest ones. At the time, I might have been about 7 years old. The rest were 9, 10, 11, 15, 14. 30 or 40 of us. I go downstairs the first time. I don't know anybody. And I'll never forget. Dom Scatino was his name. We called him Little Dom. I might have been a foot taller than him, but he was a year or two older than me. And I remember something was said, and I passed the comment. He turned around, punched me in my face, my nose started bleeding. I started crying, and I went upstairs. Went in the elevator crying, holding my nose. I pushed the button for 17. I ring the bell to go in. My mother opens up the door. Oh my God, what happened? My grandmother, who was Sicilian, your great-grandmother, cleaned me up. Go back downstairs in broken English. Go downstairs. Go downstairs. You go back downstairs. You kick at their ass. You kick at their ass. Lo and behold, I went downstairs, not with intentions of fighting, because I wasn't a fighter at that time. I remember I grew up with my grandparents and my mother, so there was no strong male figure there. Went back downstairs, and I watched what I said. Timid. Stayed in the corner. Watched everybody play. Eventually, as days, weeks, months, years went by, started interacting with everybody. I remember by the time I was about maybe 10, 11 years old, I knew my place. But it was 4th of July. I always wanted money. I saw the kids that had fathers there. They would have money to buy ice cream, to buy pizza, whatever they wanted. So this one 4th of July, I had 15 cents in my pocket. A pack of firecrackers, which I think are about 20 individual firecrackers in a pack. Paid 15 cents, bought the pack. Then there was kids now younger than me. I would sell the firecrackers. Now you had individual, I broke it down. And I would sell them for 2 cents a firecracker. So at the end of the day, the 40 firecrackers would be 40 cents. Now I went back to the firework guy who was selling firecrackers, and I picked up 2 more packs. And you know, after a week, I was able to buy, I saved my money, and I bought a brick. And in a brick, it was this size, this thick. It was 144 packs. So from 15 cents a pack, I went and bought a brick, 144 packs in a week. Ever since then, I had business sense 101. That's a hustle, how to make money, how to create, save, reinvest. And that was my thing. Funny as it may be, years later, one of my first dealings was with narcotics. Powder, as they would say, cocaine. And that brick I received, which was a kilo, went down to Harlem, picked it up from a friend of mine, Frankie. And first time I'm dealing, kilo was about $32,000 for the key he was charging me. And then I was charging one of my old partners $36,000. So I was making a quick $4,000 off the kilo, not cutting it, just giving it to him as is. This was my first big drug transaction. And Frankie asked me, he said, Dom, just take it. I'll see you tomorrow. You give me the money. And I insisted with Frankie, no, come, take a ride. I'll pay you tonight. You know, I was nervous. So I just wanted to get him paid. But we were going back and forth for about 15 minutes. He's telling me, just take it. I know you. I trust you. Don't worry about it. The next day never came for Frankie. It wasn't until years later, many years later, my first real fight was in school. There was a girl over there in school, in my class. I was in the 6th grade. And this kid was bullying her. I'm heading into class, and I see she started crying. I stepped in the middle. I told her, leave her alone. Kid's name was Paul. Her name was Christine. Paul said something. What do you mean leave her alone? I said, you're going to leave her alone. Well, I'll see you after school. He was an 8th grader. I was a 6th grader. So I said, all right. Now there's a bunch of people there. It's like peer pressure. I'm like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? But I had to stick up for Christine because I was close with her. Never went with her. It wasn't an attraction. We were just friends in class. We had all the same classes. So later on that afternoon, I have some of the older kids coming up to me. Dom, you need help? I have your back, because I was on the basketball team. So I'm like, no, I have this. It's okay. Just if you're going to be there, make sure nobody jumps in. Lo and behold, the fight's going to happen by my bus stop. I walk up to the bus stop, nervous as hell. I put down my book bag. He came off of a hill, like there was a little hill, a little rampway. Comes down, and he has his arm out. And I just sidestepped and threw a wild punch and hit him on the side of the head. He stumbles. As he stumbles, I'm just going at him, throwing punches, not even knowing how to punch. End of the day, I wound up beating the crap out of him. First fight, throwing punches wild, not even form, but I won. Now, after that bus stop, I'm happy, excited. The adrenaline's going. I just beat up an 8th grader. So now, had even more confidence. And what happened was now, on a weekend back at the building, where everybody hung out, Hazel Towers, we're all hanging out. And like I said, I was reserved. I was quiet. I knew my place. I remember little Dom said something. So we would always banter, go back and forth, all of us. But he said something. And out of nowhere, I pushed him with 2 hands. Pushed him hard. And he didn't know what to do. I turned around, what? What do you want to do? And I put my hands up to fight. He's like, no, I don't want to fight. What are you getting crazy for? And from that moment on, I knew I was a different person. So it's all about in the streets, taking that opportunity, moving forward, and doing what you have to do. But the streets, again, are not your friends. Fighting is not the right way. Because if I would have remained in school, would have did the right thing, would have stayed away from all the BS, who knows, I could have been a lawyer, accountant, architect, anything I wanted in life. But no, I chose the streets. And what happened? Hey guys, hope you like this content. You enjoyed it. If you want more, hit us up. We will definitely give you more. Much love and respect. Peace out.